Alright guys, since we have Evocation Part 4 now, I actually wanted to do a little bit of an update to the free-to-play tier list because I haven't done it in quite a while. And now that we can actually expect when a lot of these free-to-play servants are going to be returning, I think this is a lot more relevant for a lot of people. Because when I started doing these, like, about 2 years ago, it'd be like, oh, Kentucky Rider is still really, really strong. He's still way up there. For a lot of people, it really didn't matter because it was a servant they were never going to get. But now that we have Kentucky Rider back, Chloe's back, and Hokusai Saber's back, and then you also have people like BB are now like fully available in the shop and stuff like that. A lot of these really good free-to-plays are making their returns. I thought this might be more relevant for people. So you can see we've got some tiers kind of working up over here. I did skip from D to F. F is just kind of like the booty butt cheeks free-to-play servants that I think need a lot more help. But yeah, in general, you guys know how a tier list works, all that good stuff. We're going to rank all these guys and where I think they are, and I'll give you guys my reasons for why I have them where they are. But before we begin, I am going to be streaming the JP live stream later on today over on my Twitch. It goes live at like 10:15 Eastern Standard Time, you know, my time, but I'm going to go live maybe like 30 minutes maybe at most after from when they start, because you know it's an FGO live stream. They don't really get into the good stuff until like, you know, a bit into the stream, and I don't want to be sitting there through like the 10-minute intro and then all the, you know, other stuff that we really don't care about. So I'll be going live later today. If you want to check that out, you want to watch me react to the new information that's coming out, it'll be over there. But with that being said, let's start getting into this, starting off with Saber Lily. Now Saber Lily, and kind of by extent, I kind of want to put a lot of these guys kind of around the same area. Maybe I'll bump them up because Nobu and her definitely got a little bit better, but I don't know if there's, maybe she gets to go up a little bit, but these three all kind of feel like the same unit to me. She could do like decent enough damage, but her battery's not really conducive to being a buster farmer. I mean, they gave her a buff that's kind of nice, but it didn't exactly fix her fully. And then she's got the whole Saber Alter thing where she can do decent enough damage, but the rest of her kit is kind of non-existent. So, you know, they all just sit in this place of like usable. If you want to really strong arm yourself into trying to get them to work, you can do that, but really, you're probably better off using somebody else. I mean, Kukas is probably better for you to use, you know, over this one right here. And considering how many AoE Buster Sabers there are in the game, you probably have someone else you can use. I mean, unironically, you might as well just break out your Gawain. He's got the same battery. You might as well use him over Artoria over here, because he's at least got like a guts and other stuff to work with. He's got the big Buster buff. The Sunlight Battlefield is guaranteed. Might as well be using him. And then I'm kind of tempted to drop her down to D tier because she doesn't even have like the battery or anything. But I actually think I might actually drop her. Yeah, I think I will dip her down because she just doesn't really have anything going for her, which really sucks because I liked reading this event. It was one of the things that got me into reading FGO, but she just doesn't really have anything going. And I gotta, you know, not really think about the fact that they're all free NP5s. Like, her damage can look good, you know, decent enough for a free-to-play NP5, but they all have that going for them. They all have the, I guess, gimmick or the benefit of being a free-to-play that has a free NP5, so I don't know if I'm going to extend that to her. Now, Nobu, I'm giving a little bit of a pass because they did give her a pretty strong buff over on JP, and she does have, like, double damage mods, right? She hits Riding and Divine, I believe, and so that's pretty good. I think she shows a little bit more promise. I think she'll probably be towards the low end of B tier. I don't think she's quite that cracked, but she still has other good things that are built into her kit. I mean, she has good crit damage, decent star weight. She has the pieces there to actually start becoming a really strong unit, so I'm going to give her that benefit and bump her up into B tier. Now, I mean, let's just move some of like the goated free-to-plays up here. I mean, we got Shiki, I mean, we have Kentucky Rider, we have what, Chloe, BB's pretty, where's BB? BB's pretty goated. Let me see who else here. Sieg is pretty goated as well. Kagetor, like, let me just grab all like the really, really good dudes. These guys that are like, you gotta go ahead and grab these people because they're just insanely nuts. Yeah, these are like, I think the paragons of your free-to-plays. These guys are all insanely nuts. I don't know if I need to spend too much time talking about it, but for my newer players, and if you're like, oh, why should I be excited about these guys? Shiki's got like Pierce defense, Pierce invul, has a battery, does good damage. She's just really nice overall. She's just a very, very strong arts DPS in general, especially because free NP5, right, very strong. Again, they all have that, but it also makes her look really good compared to some of your other single target assassins that you might have. Like, let's say you're going to be using what's his name? Yanqing, right? So you're going to be using him. Well, you might only have him at NP1. She's got NP5. She's going to look a lot better than some of your other single targets because she has that free NP5 and her kit is really, really good. So She's very strong. Kentucky Rider is just an enigma. Somehow he has like 1.5 skills realistically. He has a quick buff, a 50% battery, and he stacks quick on his NP. But as you guys are going to see later today, I actually used him in one of the Olga Challenge Quest fights. This guy still puts in work. He's still really, really good with a very, very simple kit. Chloe, very similar. She has a, Omni card buff, 50% battery, dodge, which is kind of nice. And really, that's kind of it that she's got going for her kit. Very simple. They slapped like an Ilias support buff on her for her like battery, but nobody really cares about that. And just very simple, very good kit. Like just very straightforward, good at doing damage, can lay the boss out. These guys are very strong. BB's got a little bit more tech to her. She's also a DPS unit, but instead, they gave her a little bit of a crit niche. She can also support the allies a little bit. She has like stuns and stuff that she can also hit the enemy targets with. She's just kind of more of a utility DPS, I guess if you want to describe her like that. So she's very, very strong. Sieg is a very strong farmer. I did mention this a couple days ago when I was announcing that Chloe and Sieg had both come back around, but he's got very strong NP gain. He does have the 1-turn arts buff, but you do just save that for the last node. Makes up for it a little bit for also having a battery, and he does have the damage mod as well. That can be nice when that does crop up, so he's very, very strong as a farmer. Kagetora is kind of like, I guess, the burst DPS free-to-play servant, because a lot of her stuff is on these like 1-turn cooldowns. Like you can only really get them for a turn, but it's very, very strong. She will refund all of her NP back, and she will absolutely smack the enemy. Kind of same thing for Hokusai, except Hokusai's got a little bit more of like a crit niche, I would say, because she can like kind of bomb the stars and everything. But you'll notice a lot of the really high-end servants here are all these art servants, right? All these art servants are absolutely nutty. Like you got arts, and arts again. They're all just very, very strong, these DPS looping servants. And so they kind of all stand the test of time. Io may be one that people are not as familiar with, but she's kind of like Sieg in the fact that they're both very, very strong farmers. In fact, I actually do like her more than Sieg. In fact, if someone wanted to convince me that Sieg might drop down to 8 here because Io actually exists, she might make him look a little worse as a farmer, I think I could be convinced of that, because she's basically got everything that he's got, but a little bit more general and a bit more broad, and she's very good. She's very, very strong to use. I used her a lot after her event came out. She's able to do the 90++ node for her own events. That kind of speaks to how strong she is. But even outside of that, she's still a very, very strong farmer. But yeah, I'm just going to kind of put these guys all up here, because let's not waste time talking about the guys that are like really stupid, dummy, nutty. Let's kind of talk about some of the other guys and where they're standing, because these guys are still good. Shocker, absolute shocker that these guys are still good. But Irisfield. Now, originally, if she didn't get her buff, she'd probably be down here in Dookie Dogwater land, but I think she's actually making a little bit of a come up. I don't think she can get much higher than this, but giving her a 50% battery that allows her to access her NP that heals the party and gives them a gut, while also giving everybody a 30% NP damage buff, that's not bad. That's not a bad step in the right direction. And I kind of view it the same way as using these guys. Like, these guys you can use and get some effective use out of, but you probably have better options. Same thing for Irisville, even for free-to-plays. You probably have better options as a free-to-play support. You even got like Martha over here, who's probably a bit better than she is, but it's not bad. You can definitely make use of this, and that 50% battery really can help you effectively get to her NP if you need that guts on demand. Skahawk, I think Skahawk's gotten quite a bit better. I think she's kind of bordering this higher B, low A tier area, because they just, with a simple, anti-divinity damage mod and a little bit of a battery, they made her a lot better, because divinity is not a bad damage mod to have. There's quite a few servants that fall into that, and there's quite a few just regular enemies that also have the divinity trait, so it made her quite a bit better. She got a little bit better when they gave her that buff, and I'm glad that they're kind of doing that. You'll see that as we kind of go by, I'll kind of point out some servants that did actually get buffs when they returned, and they were servants that kind of needed it, right? They didn't buff everybody when Skahawk came out, but she was really the one that needed it the most. Same thing for Irisfield. She comes back with Sieg and Chloe. They're good enough on their own as is. They really don't need a buff, and so they gave it to her. So I like that they're recognizing which free-to-plays actually need their buffs. Brave Liz is putting her in T like too nice. I kind of view her as like the single target version of Lily over here, where like she's an AoE saber that you could use, but you probably have a better time using somebody else. She's kind of like the single target version of that. I mean, you can play roulette with her third skill. Thankfully, they cracked it down from being a 100% battery cost to being a 50% battery cost. So because she's a free-to-play, you can get her up to like 150%, and then you could try to roll the roulette and still fire your NP. And some of the effects aren't bad. There's like Big Buster on there, there's Big Stars, and you can get all this crazy stuff. But you're probably better off using the Bedivere you got for free from completing Camelot than using her, right? There's definitely better options for you to be using. But I guess I can't put her in D because she at least can be a bit more usable. Like, she's got survivability and everything. She's got that invul, so you can use her semi-effectively, where the thing that I'm holding really against Salter over here is that she really just doesn't have any real skills. She has, like, the Buster up, and that's kind of it. And it's really unfortunate. Jalter Lily over here, I'm going to give her, she's just like the Lancer version of this unit, right? They both have like the same battery. Her mana burst is a little bit higher. I think it's like one of the few ones that's at 55%, but aside from that, it's really nothing super extravagant about this unit. Cha-Cha, I feel very similar about. You'll notice a lot of these free-to-plays are now kind of ending in the C tier as I've been playing around with a lot of them a bit more. Cha-Cha, like, had this really interesting niche when the game was first kind of starting in year 1 to 2, because she came out for the second Gudu Gudu event, where you could try to start charging up her battery starting on wave 1, and then by the time you got to wave 3, because she gets NP every single turn, you would have gotten your NP and you could use her as a wave clear. And because she was a berserker, she kind of had a nice niche because you could bring her to any stage effectively. And so it was nice, you know, free NP5 berserker that could clear waves for you. But that's kind of fallen off a little bit. In fact, I think I could be convinced to even put her down here, just because of the fact that, like, that whole style of farming and everything is just not good anymore. There's really no place for it. So I think I actually will bump her down to D tier. Just having people that actually have an immediate battery is just going to be a lot more useful, because you can at least plan around that and use it in certain scenarios, as opposed to like waiting for someone to build up. It's just not as good. Now, Bunyan's where things get a little bit interesting, because if you were someone that had like a maximum broken K-scope, you were like, oh, she was way up here, because you would just slap that on Bunyan, and she had the quickest NP in the game, so you should just wave clear anything and then pass off like buster buffs and defense down to the other members of the party. But if you didn't have her, I guess she was just kind of like a solid AoE berserker. I do still consider her to be like pretty decent, probably like in the higher C tier thing over here. I don't really think she can crack much higher, just because she is a 1-star, and unless you really invest a lot of like grails and foes into her, she's probably going to get one-tapped by most enemies in the game. That is kind of one of her weaknesses, but I do think as this like free-to-play pseudo support, she does a decent enough job. Like, you can kind of use her as a free-to-play plug suit by lowering the enemy's defense and giving everybody that buster up, even a heal if you really need it. And so that can be kind of nice for people that are really hurting for extra options. And I guess she's also a 1-star, so she's very, very low investment. Where these guys are all 4-stars and everything, she's a 1-star, so her cost for, you know, doing stuff to her, like, and getting her like ascension and skills and stuff up, that's all very, very cheap, and it doesn't really cost you very much. So I think, especially keeping that in mind, I think she should be around this like maybe even more like mid-ish tier, C tier, because she doesn't have the battery. I think that's the one thing that, if they do give her like a 30% battery or something, I think she gets a lot better. But aside from that, I think she does kind of rest around here in C. Space Ishtar, not Space Ishtar, Summer Ishtar, she's pretty solid. I'm going to put her up here, kind of where like Skahawk is. They both kind of have this like role where you can use them as quick farmers. She makes other people a little bit better as well, because you can use her as a plug suit for quick farmers, which I had to do during Scotty meta, because she gives everybody the NP gain buff, and she gives them a quick buff. So you can use her as a little bit of a plug suity type person if you really do need that. But aside from that, just a solid enough farmer. But with quick kind of falling off, I can't really put her any higher than that, because no, quick's not exactly all that stellar right now. The Lizzes. Does it only have the one Liz? Okay, that's good, because sometimes it gets confusing. Sometimes I accidentally put both of them in there, and then it gets a little confusing having both of them on the list. I think this gets a little closer to that A tier range. I do like this Liz a lot. I think she's very valuable as a free-to-play alter ego. I think she could definitely put in a lot of work for people, because if you don't have your own, you'll be very reliant on her. And she has a very simple and straightforward kit. She could do a lot of damage, just has a decent enough battery, has decent, like, good NP damage, and can just kind of put out a lot of damage very quickly. And that can be just good enough if you're in need of a single target alter ego. I don't think she does anything super insane outside of that, but I do think she has a lot of value in the fact that she is a free-to-play alter ego, and that's kind of like a more gacha-specific class. We don't really get a lot of these free-to-play extra class people, so I think when we do get them, and they're decent enough like she is, I think we do need to kind of take note of stuff like that. Now, next is going to be Altera, and this is kind of unfortunate, because I'll just also move Nightingale where I think she should be as well, because these two are very similar units. They're both these, like, quick archers that are also pseudo support type servants, but unfortunately, she's just a bit old, so she didn't get all the fancy bells and whistles that Nightingale did. Like, Nightingale gets like debuff removal, and she can remove the enemy's buffs, and she gives you like crit damage and NP damage and guts and attack and all this crazy stuff. And I think she's like bordering on being like a B plus unit. I don't think she can crack into A, but I do like using Santa Altera over here, or Santa Nightingale. But Altera, I think she's like pretty solid, kind of maybe in the range of where, say, Irisfield is, where you could bring her as a support unit because she does give you NP damage, she gives you a little bit of crit damage, buffs your crit star generation rate, and gives you like a 20% battery, which is all nice. I just don't think it's enough compared to like some of the other free-to-play supports you could be bringing. And I know that Nightingale doesn't give battery, but I don't think that's enough to really like drag her down because Nightingale gives you so much more, right? She just gives you a whole plethora of buffs that are very, very strong. Plus, if you want to use her as her own single target servant, you want to use her as a DPS, she's good enough on that front. Actually, let me go check, because I always get them mixed up. I think she's single target. No, okay, yeah, she's AoE. Altera's the single target. Yeah, I get this mixed up all the time, okay? But if you want to, okay, reverse that. If you want to use her as like a DPS or like a wave clearer, she can do that effectively, especially against like numerous enemies in like, say, a boss fight, if you want to use her for that. And there's a lot of like trash mobs you need her to take care of. She can definitely do that very well. Where I guess it actually further reinforces what I was thinking about, because I don't really see Altera as a very good boss killing servant over here. Like, I don't really think her kit is super conducive to doing that. I do think stuff like this could be very good, right? The fact that she's got Pierce Invincibility built in as a free-to-play servant, that could be very useful to some people, but you're probably just going to be better off using like any of the other free-to-plays, that, or just slapping on like a Pierce Invincibility CE. Kind of in that same respect and kind of the same theme of supports, I'm going to put Ryoma around here as well. Now, I know a lot of people don't think super highly of Ryoma, but I will say, as someone who was starting the game off and didn't know a whole lot about the game, Ryoma was fairly useful just because he gives very basic buffs. He gives battery, attack, and arts, like just very simple things that, like, if you slap him into an arts team, he's at least contributing something while also doing some amount of damage. It's not a lot, it's not a huge amount of damage. He's not a very good single target DPS, but he's at least contributing a little bit to the party, right? And it's just kind of in the same vein as, like, say, Altera. I kind of think of them in the same way, and because I always thought that I'd probably kind of just put Ryoma up here with some of the other free-to-play supports, some of the not as good free-to-play supports, I guess I should say. That's why Altera got saved from being any lower, because I think she does still have some value for newer players, and at least she's pretty easily accessible. You just got to go do the rare mana prism thing and replay the event, which isn't all that hard with the evocation festivals. They give you just an absolute boatload of rare mana prisms and stuff, and they give you them in like events and stuff now, so it shouldn't be all that hard as a newer player to come across, although I imagine you'd probably go get BB first, but different discussion, whole different discussion. Berserker Jalter. Now, I will admit I'm a little bit biased for this unit. Maybe they should probably be in B tier, right? Maybe they should not be cracking into A, but as my tier list, I get to be a little bit biased towards Jalter. This is a very basic unit, though. She has attack. When she hits you, triggers burn. She has a regenerating dodge, gets herself a little bit of an NP gain buff, which I don't really notice all that much. Small battery, small buster buff that is for some reason on like a one-turn clock. Really the saving grace for this unit that she's a Berserker, right? She's a free-to-play Berserker. You can bring her anywhere, and she could put out pretty good amounts of damage, right? You could bust her Brave Chain and kind of just start melting enemy bosses. But if you're not like a huge Jalter simp like myself, she probably does go around in like this more mid-B tierist range. I mean, realistically, this is probably about as good as she is, because her and Mecha Liz over here kind of fulfill the same role of get in there, dump a lot of damage in, especially when they gave her the buff for the 25 stars, right? They're just like, you get in there, dump out a lot of damage, and then you get out of there. Especially Jalter, she's got the one dodge every turn, and that's gotta be enough to just get her across the finish line. But you know what? In the case of not being non-biased, I will put her here by Mecha Liz, because they do kind of feel like very similar units to me in that they just get in there, do a lot of damage, and hopefully you've either won or you kind of cycled out to one of your other units. So yeah, I'm going to put her on there, but my bias wants her to be right there, but I'm trying to curb my bias a little bit and put her maybe down in B tier, because these are very similar-ish units. Or maybe these guys should be in A tier. We'll kind of discuss that later when I'm looking at the overall tier list. Is Shuten really like a D tier Dookie Dog Water Servant? Is she really that bad? I want to say she's not so bad and maybe she could crack into C tier, but I just have never seen a use for this servant like at all whatsoever. I've never seen anybody use this servant. I've tried to use her a couple of times, and I'm thinking of every time I try to use her on stream, and I'm always just sorely disappointed. So you know what? I'm leaving her in D tier. This unit just like, I don't know what it is. Like, she's got good things. She's got card buffs. Maybe it's the fact that she's like a single target caster. Like, maybe the fact is that she's a DPS caster, and DPS casters just aren't all that great. Maybe that's what's holding her back. So I'm thinking about her kit, and I'm like, no, she has good things in her kit. And then I'm trying to think, and I'm like, yeah, but she still does like no damage. So who cares like how decent enough your kit might be? If you're not doing any damage, then what's the point of being a DPS? Okay, Kets. All right, I want to be nice to Kets. I really do. I want to be nice and slap her up here somewhere. I want to be nice, but maybe. I'm trying to think, because Kets does have this like niche. Let me pull this up for people so they can also see what I'm talking about. She has this niche as like a crit star genning, like crit ruler person, kind of like an AoE buster version of Estrella, right? Where you can see that like she's going to like drop stars on this over here. I think it's on here, yeah, but it's on her NP where she, you know, increases her star drop rate, has like not a super high hit count, but should drop a decent bit of stars, increases everybody's crit damage. So in theory, between this and this, you're dropping enough stars that everybody can do some decent enough crits, right? And it can be nice. And if you really want someone to start doing crits, you could target that on somebody. And if you want her to be the DPS, she has a buster buff over here. And she'll even target her own buster cards so she can do decent enough buster crits, right? I like the game plan of this unit. I don't want to put her in D tier because I feel like she actually has an identity. But I'm like, I don't know, C tier is getting a little bit bloated. And so I'm like, do I bump some people down? Maybe. I might bump some of these people down. What I might actually do, because now that I'm seeing like, say, Bunyan next to like people like these guys, I think I'm actually going to bump some of these lads actually down a little bit, because I don't think they're quite as good. You know what, Liz? You can also get bumped down. I think that looks a little bit better. That makes me feel a little bit better about putting her in C tier, because I have seen some success with this Kets, right? Especially if you have like 20-30 and you could slap it on her. I know this is a free-to-play tier list, but if you could slap like a 20-30 or something that just helps her gen a little bit more stars, you can use her kind of effectively as a crit unit. And I want to give her that little bit of the benefit of the doubt, because I've had personally some good usages with this servant. Gray is just really solid. Gray is just a good servant to have. She's got a nice battery, piercing invincibility, just does good damage, has the card buffs. She has an undead damage mod, and let me double check that, because every time I say that, it feels really weird to me, but I know she has an undead damage mod. It's just very, very strange. I always say it, and I don't believe that she has it. Ray, are you not a Lancer? Am I stupid? You're an assassin. I don't know why. I always think she's a Lancer because she has Rongaminiad, and then I almost like, oh yeah, she's an assassin. Yeah, she has the undead damage mod, which is really weird because there's not like that many dudes on this. Let me pull up enemy traits over here. If we go all the way down to you, yeah, right here, you can see there's not that many enemies, but they're kind of common. You could bring her to fight like Big Ghost. This is a Lost Belt 7 boss, I suppose. These guys kind of pop up sometimes, and you could bring her to fight those. So it's like not the worst thing for her to have, but I mean, the rest of her kit I think is fine enough. Stuff like this I wish was 3 turns, but it is 40%. Maybe they didn't want to be too nice and generous giving that to her. And then the battery is also kind of nice as well. So like, I do like what they've done with this servant, and I think the buff that they did definitely helped her out a lot. That is the Pierce Invincibility I was talking about, by the way. If you are not up to date on like the different buffs for the servants for the JP version, yeah, they definitely made her a little bit better. They were like, okay, we're gonna take away, you know, her ability to have this for 3 turns, but we'll give her these, so subsequent NPs will do more and more damage. She is one of those servants that I wish she had a quick NP, but I think if she had a quick NP, she might be a little too good. Eris, I can't put you much higher than this, just out of frustration that you are an arts AoE servant that does not function half of the time. By this point, I shouldn't have to explain it, but for those of you guys that are not in the loop, let me let you know right now. Eris has like a really solid looking kit. If you look at her on paper, she looks really strong. But unfortunately, she wants to refund her NP, but she has this insta-kill mechanic on her NP, and sometimes she insta-kills the enemy before she gets the hits in, so thus she doesn't get any refund, thus not allowing her to farm at all, which can be very, very frustrating. And for that alone, even if her kit is good enough for her to be in B tier, maybe she's really good at trash mob clearing in like challenge quests, maybe she does deserve to be up here, but out of spite for this unit always failing me in farms, she can't go any higher than this. I can't put her any higher just because of all the frustrations I've had with this unit. Okay, you, Santa Carna, and I think, okay, I think you guys can all kind of move together. Notice how these are all like quick units, by the way, as well, except for, well, okay, you're a Buster Servant, but I think of you as a quick unit because you have a triple quick deck. But we've got these 3 quick units over here. Basically, Karna of the 3 is kind of like the standard .jpg, just good person, right? Like nothing really special going on with this guy. All of his buffs are just good, just like decent survivability, decent card buffs, can do decent crits, just like really strong across the border. In reality, you would think he'd be like the better Kentucky Rider, but Kentucky Rider stacks his quick buff, has a 50% battery, and just loops like an absolute madman, right? He's just absolutely ludicrous. You'd think Karna would have been the replacement for him, but I guess they fumbled the bag along the way. But he's still good. You know, going from not being an S tier unit, but being an A tier, still very solid. Now, you, I like a little bit better. Because you has an anti-mail damage mod. She can get up to like 60% NP gain, has guts, and has a decent small battery. I just like you a lot. You just kind of puts out really good work. She's kind of actually closer to Kentucky Rider, I think, than Karna is, because her kit is very basic and straightforward, and thus it makes her really easy to use, and it's really easy to get results with this unit. Now, Hoagie over here, I know we just got her over on NA, but I need to remind you guys how good this unit actually is. Look at this kit, right? So first and foremost, she got a 30% quick buff for 3 turns, which you might be like, hey man, that's not good enough. I need more quick buff. But bam, you fire your NP, now you're up to 40%. If not higher, if you have some overcharged demonic Bodhisattva stuff going on. I don't know. Maybe you're using someone to give you overcharge, but bam, you got 40%. You got good survivability. You got double evasion. That's nice. You got a nice battery that you could target onto someone, which is really nice, and give them a little bit of star weight, which you really shouldn't need because this is going to be in quick teams and they're going to be dropping stars all over the place. But maybe you really need that, you know, specific star weight because, I don't know, you ended up with 40 stars and Scotty really has to get the crit for some reason. But then you also have this very strong charisma that kind of functions like a little baby support that gives everybody attack and NP gain, which really you're just going to be using for her. And it kind of gives her the baby trifecta of quick farming, right? You got decent NP gain, you're double buffing yourself with a decent enough quick buff, and you have a battery for a little bit of wiggle room. She's definitely solid enough. Now, you can struggle a little bit as I, am Scotty-less over on NA, so when I have to loop with this servant, it can be a little bit rough, right? But I imagine it gets a lot easier once Ruler Scotty comes out, and especially because she's a free NP5 servant, she's not a bad looper for you to break out and use, or you kind of use her as like a baby support unit, right? Because keep in mind, she also is removing enemy defensive buffs. You could just throw her in front of your main DPS's NP, yeet off their defensive buffs, give them the extra overcharge because you put an NP in front of their NP, and then let them go to town. So I like how this unit is built a lot. I do like them a lot. I think they're very, very strong and very solid as a quick looper. Then we have Echan over here. Oh boy. Okay, well, I'm putting her by Kets, and that's all I'm really gonna say about that. They both, I mean, I feel better about Kets because I really like how Kets is built, and I think she kind of has interesting things going for it. And I like that she has like a pretty good, well-defined game plan for what she wants to do. I guess I should probably pull up Echan and just show you guys what I mean. When she initially dropped, I thought she was going to be a lot better than she was, because you go in and you look at her, you're like, okay, so she's got like the quick buff, which you need to do quick farming, right? That's very strong. That's good. She's got 100% crit damage, which is the, Merlin crit damage buff. The mechanical enemies thing, who cares about that, right? This was like super weird when we first got it. And then it's like, okay, then she gives herself an attack buff. That's nice. The problem is there was no NP gain and there was no battery on an AoE quick servant. So like, they just left her to fumble the bag because there is no looping going on here, sir. There is nothing going on. Not even this natural high NP gain could save her. Now, they did give her a really good damage mod. I like that. And they gave her even more quick performance. So whenever you fire your NP, you have a 50% quick buff. But you need more than that, Haas. You need more than that. She almost gives me like the pre-buff Bradamante issue where her kit looks a little bit better on paper, but it's actually just not that good in practice, which is very unfortunate. All right, Da Vinci Ruler. You guys know that I really like this unit. I like bringing them in like all these weird challenge node things where they restrict the units you're able to use. You can't bring friend supports, or you have limited supports, kind of like the Olga thing or tower events. I think that's where this unit shines. Just because that's kind of specifically where you're going to use her, I don't want to put her in S tier because she kind of has that limited use, because otherwise you're probably just going to bring like double Castoria, double Scotty, double Koyenskaya, double Oberon, like these double really good supports, even double Waver probably. If you don't have any of the main guys, that's still pretty good. I mean, good enough, I guess, for challenge in difficult content, but I do still like this unit. The fact that she gives you all the basics, Omni card buff, NP damage, overcharge, and battery. Those are all very basic things that every DPS can use, because every DPS is going to fall into a card type. They all are basically going to want NP damage, unless you're like Super Orion or something, like where you specifically do like face card damage, right? But you still like the battery, and everything is still just very good for you, right? So I really like how this unit was designed, and I think they're very strong. I'm going to pull up some of these other guys over here just because my NA players might not know everything they can do. That way they can actually more accurately judge some of these other guys. Ryder Liz, I do think is very solid. I think this is one of the units that people should be more excited for coming out during Halloween. For one, I love this effect on units. I love when they can just debuff cleanse themselves. Tiamat has this on her NP, and man, it is super nice when you have it because it just makes more difficult encounters so much better. But ironically enough, this is going to be a bit more useful on her than, say, someone like Tiamat, because she's a single target. So you're going to be bringing her to boss fights more so than you're going to be bringing Tiamat, because Tiamat is an AoE. You're probably going to be using her for farming, where an effect like that is more lost on them, right? Which, you know, I like this on Liz. I think it's really good. She has good survivability, good NP gain over here on a like double arts, double buster deck. Solid enough buster buff. Has a wild beast damage mod, which is nice. We don't care about that because we're just going to cleanse that anyway. And then her third skill gives herself a battery, right? Just straightforward good servant. And before you're like, hey man, what about sealing your own skills? Hey dummy, just use them in order. Go first, second, third, bada boom, bada bing, you're done. Didn't have to waste any of your skills at all whatsoever. Just a solid good servant. So she's going up here in A tier. I like her a lot. I think she's a very, very solid good DPS servant. More so than I think these two over here. Yeah, I'm kind of glad that I bumped them down because I do think she's a bit better than them. Although they have the benefit of being a berserker and you have the benefit of being an alter ego, so you guys can hit more classes. But you know, if you really value that more, you can, you know, bump Jaltra up. I'm not gonna complain if someone says Jaltra should be up there. I'm not gonna lie. I'm just trying to check my own bias. All right, Renmaru. Actually, I don't know if I need. Okay, I'll pull her up for my NA players. But basically, she's an arts AoE farmer. She's unfortunately not the free-to-play replacement that we all thought she was going to be. Her natural NP gain is a little bit low, but when she was released, we were like, this is going to be the servant that is like the free-to-play Space Ishtar, the free-to-play Summer Common. Unfortunately, that's not exactly what she was, because her kit is a little bit lacking, and as you can see, a lot of it is kind of built for this like burst damage stuff. And the most tragic thing is that like she has this defense down that's only good for one node, and so realistically she's only got one buff to go in with for farming, and that is unfortunately tied to her battery, right? So usually you'd want to like fire this on wave 1 and save the battery in case you miss like a farm and you're at like 90% battery. It's a nice little like focus sash for you, or like a little security blanket to make sure you can actually do your farm. But her kit is just built way too wonky. Now you can still use her in more difficult content if you want. These things get a little bit better because then the charm is more useful. The reduction of defense is better because you can be fighting the same enemy back to back. Stuff like her being able to like massively gas up her own star weight, because this is the same buff that Caskill gives for a little bit of a reference. So she can actually start dropping stars on her arts cards. The Pierce defense is a little bit weird, but we like to see this. Good enough for more difficult fights. And then her crit damage also becomes a little bit more useful, and the removes debuffs become more useful. So like I'm not going to put her lower than like B tier, I don't think. I do like this unit as like an AoE DPS guy, but it's just disappointing, I guess. It's disappointing because she was going to be like the free-to-play Space Ishtar, but now she's kind of like, I don't even know. How would I describe her? She's a free-to-play what? I don't know. But if you use her in more like difficult content, she can kind of shine. It's just unfortunately, you don't really want to bring AoEs to more difficult content because you'd rather bring a single target that does more damage. So it's just a little unfortunate. But hey, she can shine a little bit in there. You can use her to some effect. I've used her a little bit of more difficult content. I don't think that you can't use her to farm, by the way. I'm not saying she can't do it. It's just a little rough. Believe me, I tried when she came out. It was a little rough to get it going, but you can get it going. Double Castoria plus a plug suit, and you can pretty much get anybody to farm at that point. Martha, the unit we're going to be getting later on this year. All right, I was going to bring her to the Olga run that I did earlier today, and I'll show you guys why. This unit is chock full of a bunch of good stuff, right? When this unit came out, I was surprised more people weren't oogling over how good she was, because she just does a bunch of good stuff. Look at this. You have big attack, you get big max HP, well, not big, decent max HP, and then you get, a nice battery, right? That's really good. Then you also give them star weight, drop stars, and then she gives herself her own NP battery, which is nice because her own NP, crazy. You get damage mod against the 3 things that, Summer Martha gets, more stars, more HP, more attack. It's just a bunch of good stuff. And then on top of all of that, she even has pseudo survivability because she could seal the enemy's NP and stop them and gives you more damage. I love this unit. You can just pretty much bring her to any party because, again, very generic. Everybody likes attack. Everybody likes doing crits. Everybody likes NP. Everybody likes hitting people with, lower defense. Just good stuff. Everybody loves free damage mods as well, right? She's just good. I'm really excited to get this unit later on this year because she's free. Absolutely phenomenal. I love her a lot. And then the damage mod scales by NP level, by the way, because, it's a non-damaging NP. But yeah, she's really great. Don't sleep on this unit. She's very, very good. I'm excited for her to come out. All right, Taisui. Okay. All right, so I ended up going on like a 10-minute ramble on this unit, and I just went ahead and went off screen, tested him out for a little bit because I haven't used this unit in so long that I was like, I have to give myself a refresher on this dude. And so basically, I think he's going to go where Renmaru goes. Just long story short, they feel very similar to me. He seems like he'll be able to farm a little bit better, so maybe if you want to crack him up into A tier, I'm fine with that, but I think like high end B tier is still fine. Basically, look, he's got arts party-wide, NP gain party-wide, has a 30% battery, which is good, has NP damage, which we like to see. That's very good with Oberon, which is why I'm like, if you want to crack him up into that A tier status, because he can work really well with Black Grail and Oberon, I think that's fine. I don't have Oberon on JP, so I wasn't able to test that out effectively, but I imagine it's just even better than the results I got. And then he also has survivability over here, which can be nice if you want to bring him to more difficult content. And look at this. His skills are more neatly packed together. Look at all that. Just super nice. And then basically, man attribute damage mod. He's just like a very solid, good servant, right? He's just solid. He's just good. If you want to crack him up, I think that's fine. In fact, I think I will, because I think I like him more than Hoagie as a farmer. In fact, do I want to crank Hoagie down to where Renmaru is? I think, I'm not going to lie, because the more I'm thinking about it, I think these two are closer as like farmers, because Quick is a little bit janky. I think they're a little bit closer than she is to this guy, because this guy did feel pretty decent to use. He's not all that bad. I know his natural NP gain is a little bit low, but keep in mind, it's Castoria farming. She can pretty much make anybody with the pulse farm. And so he can pull up like decent enough like results. And as an alter ego, he's very good against, 4 different classes, especially if they're mixed classes, right? He could do like Rider Assassin or like Rider Cast or stuff like that. He can be very good, very diverse. So I did like using him. I don't know. Thinking about using her, I'm not sure. Like, because quick farming is a little bit rough. If we get like a better quick like looping support, I might bump her up. But after going through and testing him out and kind of having a little bit of time to myself to think about where everything is at, I do kind of want to bump her down to where Renmaru is, because they feel kind of similar, where you could use them for farming, but you have better options. But they do more shine and more like difficult content. So I think I am going to retroactively be like, I think I might have been a little too hasty on putting them up there. The Valkyries. Okay. Valkyries kind of up here. They're a little bit more janky, but they are this like uber high hit arts AoE NP. I believe they have like 9 hits or something, which was why it was so weird when they came out, because they released and they have like no NP gain, but they have not even 9, 10. They have this 10 hit AoE NP, which is ridiculously high. You get so much overkill on that, which should be pretty good because, they're an NP5 servant. You should be getting that overkill. And then they have a good Earth attribute damage mod. These guys I know I was a little bit skeptical on when they came out because, you also have like a lower arts card hit over there, right? And, you have a little bit of NP gain and you have a little bit of a battery, but I'm not sure with that 0.23. But no, it turns out I was wrong and, didn't really need to be skeptical on these guys. They're just good. They're just good farmers. They're just solid enough. Only problem is I don't want to put them like super high into A tier because they're, I don't know. Assassins don't have a really good like class damage modifier, so their damage might feel really low some of the time. But if you're a newer player in need of like a decent farmer, Summer 7's going to come around and you could use them and they'll be pretty decent. Although you're probably better off using Io, who comes out a couple months after them, I believe. But yeah. Then we have Satanta. Actually, with Satanta, do I want to bump Karna down? I might bump Karna down and put Satanta where he is, because I like Satanta a lot. I think Satanta is really, really solid. He's kind of like a burst, quick, single-target saber, but using this guy, because you have to use him a lot during the event, he's very, very strong, and I've been using him for some of like the tower event and everything. This guy is definitely a very strong guy. High natural NP gain, and then just good skills all around. Now, the attack buff might seem a little bit low, but keep in mind, he's got other buffs. He's a free NP5, so he'll do good damage. Removing debuffs, I think, is very good, especially on a quick servant, because Scotty does not provide that for you. She's not going to be cleaning your buffs or like really giving you any protection at all. So when you can provide that for yourself, it's absolutely killer. Bombing stars is really good. Even though he is a quick servant and he should provide his own quick stars, it's very good for like immediate turn 1 crits if you want to start off slamming the enemy really hard. Then he has the Wild Beast damage mod, which isn't the craziest thing, but if you can get it, it's nice. But there's the other buffs that I was talking about. He has the quick, which is also very nice. Good enough to really get the job done. And then he's got some nice crit damage over here to really take advantage of those stars that he's going to be producing and the ones that he can bomb. And I also just like the fact he's got Pierce Evasion and Pierce Defense. It's almost as good as Pierce Invincibility and Pierce Defense, just not quite as good, obviously, because Pierce Evasion doesn't get around Invincibility, but Invincibility for some reason gets around Evasion. You know, I don't know why they did that, because they just made one of them way better than the other, but also on subsequent NPs, which is not too hard to loop NP back-to-back on this guy, especially with Scotties and such, you know, go figure. You do more and more damage over time because you keep lowering their defense. I like this guy a lot. I think he's very good. And when I saw him, I was like, ooh, I might have to bump Karna down because I do think he's a tad bit better than Karna is. Now, Knocknaria, this one is, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to put this down in the I need more time on this one. Because she did just come out, and then I went on vacation, and I wasn't able to test her out very frequently, right? Because Summer 8 came out as I was kind of going down to visit family and everything, and obviously not having my PC and everything, and you know, where I normally play FGO and like I record gameplay and stuff, I didn't get to test this unit out very much. I was more so focused on just finishing the actual event and getting all the mats and stuff that I needed. So I didn't get to test her out very much. She looks very weird on paper, though. I will show you guys in case you missed my like original video on her. She looks very strange, which is why I'm not just going to make like some cursory judgment on her. I want more time to play around with this one because she gives like everybody this like My Fair Soldier thing. I believe on this one, yeah. She gives them this, and then it gives them other different little buffs depending on that. So she seems like an interesting servant to toy around with, but I need to like time to actually toy around with her, right? And see how good she actually is, because she has good effects like debuff cleansing, healing herself. I just used this effect on Kiara to win a fight that didn't seem like it was going to be winnable. Like, so in a solo scenario where you're just using her, this can be very good at keeping her alive, and she has very, very strong buffs that are just good for like kind of allowing her to do damage and, you know, finish out the fight. Plus she keeps all the original Maeve things of like having good sustain. So I don't know, I want more time to like use this unit. If you ask me like cursory right now, where would I put her? I'd probably put her at least in like the top of B tier. I'd probably put her somewhere around there. These aren't exactly like ordered specifically, right? They're not like super ordered. But I'd probably put her around there, but I want more time to play around with this unit. I don't want to give like a disingenuous judgment on this unit. I want to be fair to the unit. But yeah, this is basically where I think a lot of these servants should go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll leave the link down there as well if you want to make your own free-to-play tier list and post it in the Discord. I love having discussions with you guys all the time. So if you're like, hey man, I actually found that let me think. You're like, you know what, Kagetora, she's actually kind of dookie dog water. I think she belongs right there. And Sieg, I don't know, kind of feels like he's more in this range. If you want to like make arguments like that, I'm totally fine with that. I'm never going to claim that I know everything and that I'm like the official authority on FGO. So if there's something that you disagree with, by all means, let me know in the comments down below. Keep it respectful and I'll be respectful back. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. And I am way too sick to be recording videos that are this long.